Hey folks, this is Vince with Dad's Gaming Addiction, and today we're going to look at Phase 10. Now this game is for 2 to 6 players, for ages 7 and up, with the average playtime being about an hour. It all depends really on how quickly you can complete your sets. Speaking of which, this is a rummy type game that'll task players with completing their specified set and then trying to get rid of the rest of their cards in order to go out. Now, as the name implies, this game is played over a series of phases. So for the first phase of a game, the player that is on the first phase, for example, will have to complete 2 sets of 3. On the second phase, they'll have to complete 1 set of 3 and 1 run of 4, and it'll vary up to 10 different phases. It'll make more sense once I show you how the gameplay works, but suffice it to say, players are going to be trying to complete different sets depending on what phase they're on. So without further ado, let's take a look at what came in the box and how the game is played. Alright, and here's a quick look at game setup. You've got 2 of these reference cards here. You also have a deck of 108 cards, and that consists of numbered cards ranging 1 through 12 of 4 different colors: red, blue, yellow, and green. You've also got these skip and wild cards in the deck. The wilds act just as they sound. They can be used for any number, any color. And the skip cards, basically whenever you discard those cards, you can pick someone to skip for that turn. Alright, now game setup is very simple. You shuffle the deck of cards and you deal 1 face-up to start the discard pile. After that, each player receives 10 cards to form their starting hand. Alright, now at the very beginning of the game, each player will be on Phase 1, and on Phase 1, they'll have to complete 2 sets of 3. Now, they can't lay down 1 set of 3 on one turn, and then 1 set of 3 on a future turn. They have to get all of the cards that they need into their hand, and then lay them down all at the same time. So on a player's turn, what they'll do is they'll draw 1 card from either the deck or the discard pile, and then they'll go ahead, take a look at their cards to see if they can complete their required phase. If they can't, they'll just go ahead and discard a card and end their turn. But if they can, they'll pick up a card again and take a look at their hand. In this case, I need to complete 2 sets of 3. I've got 4 10s and 3 11s. Now, you can lay down more than what these phase calls for. So I could lay down, for example, these 3 10s and these 3 11s to complete 2 sets of 3. But I could also lay down this extra 10 to build upon that. Now, once you complete your phase, you are still in that round. Your goal now is going to be getting rid of all of your cards. If you happen to be the first player to get rid of all of your cards after completing your phase, you'll get 0 points for that round. You want to make sure you have a separate paper and pencil handy so you can keep track of everyone's scores. Once someone goes out, everyone else will tally up their scores based on what they have left in their hand. Okay, so now that this player has gone ahead and played this, he can go ahead and discard 1 card to end his turn. Alright, now this player is going to go. And they'll basically do the same thing. They'll pick up a card. Let's first take a look to see if they need that card in the discard pile now. So you're going to pick this up, and it's a 12. So let's take a look at the cards now and see. He's got a set of 3 here, these 3 9s. And it looks like he has 3 12s. So he actually gets to complete this phase as well. And completing a phase basically means that you get to move on to the next phase whenever this particular round is over. If you don't complete your phase before someone goes out, you have to try and complete that phase again in the next round. You can't complete more than 1 phase in a single round. Again, it gets a little confusing, but once you get a handle on how the phases and rounds work, it's pretty self-explanatory. So there's 12, 12, 12. So we've got this player completing 2 sets of 3. This player's completed that. Do I have any extra 9s or 12s I can play? Doesn't look like it. Okay, now you can also hit, it's called in the manual there, you can hit by adding cards to someone else's numbers that are, or cards that are on the table at the time being. So, for example, this second player over here has an 11 in their hand. They could then add it to this grouping over here. So after that, there's a 10. Let's go ahead and get rid of that. Okay, and then we can discard a card. So we'll get rid of this one. And that would end player 2's turn. Alright, now let's just say for the sake of argument that after so many turns have played out, let's just say that these cards here were 11 and 10s or 9s and 12s, and this player managed to get rid of all of their cards. Now after that, this player will score 0 on the imaginary score pad off to the side, and this player will add up how many points he has left in her hand. Now, the way that the scoring works, you get 5 points for each numbered card numbered 1 through 9, and 10 points for each numbered card ranging 10 through 12. So this would be worth 10 points. The skip cards are worth 15, and the wild cards are worth 25. Now, you want to try and get as low as a score as possible. The winner of the game as a whole is the person that can complete Phase 10 and go out. But if it just so happens that two players complete Phase 10 in the same round, whoever has the lower score of the two will win the game. Okay, now after a round is over, then players will go ahead and discard everything they have. They'll reshuffle the deck, start a new discard pile, and each player will receive a new 10-card hand. So let's just go over that all again, just to sort of recap everything I just said. This new phase, Phase 2, both players are on Phase 2 because they completed Phase 1 in the last round. They need one set of 3 and one run of 4. So let's take a look here. Let's go ahead and do we need 7s? You might be able to use a 7. Let's go ahead and pick up the 7 instead of drawing from the deck. And let's take a look to see if he can complete his phase. One set of 3. You know, I think he can. Let's go ahead and use these 3 11s here. There's one wild. And looks like he has a run of 4. 3, 4, 5. I saw a 6. 6. Okay. Now again, you can throw extra cards down if it matches the groupings here. So I could put a 7 on top of the 6 to add to that run. If I had another 11, I could put it on top of that, but I don't. I have a 2. I could add the 2 to this run here if I want to. So there's that. I also have a 1, so I could do that. And now I can discard to end my turn. So I'm just going to put this 2 down like so. And that'll end player 1's turn. Now, he did very well. He actually completed his phase. So he'll move on to Phase 3 in the next round, and he only has 1 card left. Alright, so now let's look at player 2 here and see what he can do. Again, he has to pick up first. He's got some 2s there. Let's just go ahead and I think we'll draw from the deck. He's got a 1, okay. Alright, so let's add the 1 to this. Okay, so just in looking at this, he's got a 10, 11, 12 here. He needs a run of 4, so he can't do this yet. He needs a 9 in order to complete this 10, 11, 12. It doesn't look like he has any other, yeah. So he's got the 3 1s here that he could lay down for part of that phase, the 1 set of 3, but he doesn't have these run of 4 yet, so he can't actually play anything right now. And he can also not hit on any of the existing cards on the table. You have to complete your phase first before you can start hitting or adding to other sets that are already on the table. So this player is just going to have to discard something and end his turn. Alright, so back to player 1 here. Let's go ahead and just draw a card from the deck, and it turns out to be a wild. So with this wild, he can now add that to anything on the table. So 11, he could add another 11 to that, and then he can discard this at the end of his turn, and he's gone out. Now player 2 here does not get to move on to the next phase in the next round. He'll still have to try and complete phase 2 on the next round, whereas this player over here on the left will get to work on Phase 3 in the next round. So different players will be on different phases throughout the course of the game, depending on how lucky they are on the rounds that they play. And now this player is going to have to add up all of the points left in their hand. Again, it's 5 points for, I think, numbers 1 through 9, and then 10 points for numbers 10 through 12. So you'll add all that up, put that on your score sheet, and move on to the next round. Alright, now you have it, a very brief look at Phase 10. It's important to note real quick that I did not cover all of the rules found in the manual. This was just a brief overview so that you can get an idea of what the game is like should you want to pick it up for yourself. I think the game retails for like $5 or $6, so it's nice and cheap, and you'll get a lot of replayability out of this. And the nice thing about Phase 10 is that there are really no runaway leaders, so to speak. Granted, if you are lucky in the cards that you get, you can complete phases every single round. Again, you can only complete 1 phase per round, but you can complete, if you're lucky enough, on 1 round to get Phase 1, then Phase 2, then Phase 3, then Phase 4, and then you're on to Phase 7, and you completed Phase 7. But these phases get harder the further along you go. So there's a good chance that while someone might be lucky at the start, they're going to have a harder time toward the end trying to complete these other phases because, like for example, Phase 8 calls for 7 cards of 1 color. Phase 9, one set of 5, one set of 2. You've also got one set of 5 and one set of 3 in Phase 10. So, like I said, the phases are easy to start with, but toward the end of the game, as players get to Phase 8, 9, and 10, they may have to work on it for a number of rounds before they can complete those final phases. And while they're doing that, the other players that are on the earlier phases can, sort of catch up. So there you have it, Phase 10. If you want to see the full review, you can at www.dadsgamingaddiction.com. If you haven't already, subscribed to my YouTube channel. That way you can keep up to date on any new content I happen to publish. This is Vince. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.